interesting discussion for today, and I would like to participate with an idea. We were often asked, what's about the future of heating oil? Is there a vision? And for that reason, Eurofuel built up a future vision, which I will explain in the next slides. Next slide, please. So first, the motivation. Why DHO for heating? It is possible that you all know this because it's your daily business, but I would like to sum up everything. It's a reliability. It's an easy transport, an easy storage because of its high energy density. I think this is a really good advantage. It is suitable for all buildings. You can even heat buildings with a high energy demand. You don't need to make insulation first. It has flexibility. You don't need any grids. It can be supplied everywhere. It is easy to combine with renewable energies like photovoltaic, solar thermal, or biomass. And I think this is also really important. It's ready to operate with the new low carbon liquid fuels. Its affordability. Modernization of the heating system requires less or no modification on the building, so you can do it stepwise. And last but not least, it's a high efficiency. Condensing boilers have an efficiency close to 100%, and I think these are quite good reasons to stick to heating oil. Next slide, please. Now the question, why renewable components for DHO fuels? I think after today's discussion, this is nearly answered, but I would like to sum up the most important points. It is first, the EU requirements or the governmental requirements. And you already heard, we have to reduce to -95 or better to 0 CO2 emission in 2050. Another point is we want a level playing field to natural gas. Natural gas has a reduced CO2 footprint. And if we mix up heating oil with renewable components, we can be equal in emission to natural gas. And this may give a basis for subsidies and avoid heating oil bans in future. And this will lead to acceptance by politicians, by burner manufacturers, by market partners and customers. So we conclude that renewable components are required to maintain the fuel oil as well as the equipment market in future. Next slide, please. This is our vision. This is a Eurofuel vision. We have a three-step approach. First step is efficiency. So replace your old boiler with a new condensing system, do some insulation work, and you will decrease your demand drastically. Second step is hybrid, incorporation of renewables like solar thermal, photovoltaic, or wood or pellets. And the third step, if the amount of heating oil is reduced drastically, a low carbon liquid fuel to reduce it close to 0. Next slide, please. For a model, for a mathematical model, you always need boundary conditions to make this model. And I would like to sum up these ideas. First is that we meet the targets in 2050. Second is that the heat demand, the heating oil demand will be reduced, as already mentioned, like the previous years, via efficiency, insulation, via hybrid systems, and this is also taken into account migration to other energy sources. Another basic idea is that in 2050, we only operate heating systems which will be installed from 24 on, which means new systems, condensing systems, high efficient systems. And the fourth idea is that we today only have a limited extent of renewable components. So we have to do it stepwise and increase it in the coming years. Next slide, please. For the model, we created a new fuel. And you should have in mind it's only an example model. That's a calculation idea. We have a DHO select fuel, which has 33% of renewable product. And this is delivered to all new installed appliances from 24 on. So a new oil device, oil boiler, has the same CO2 emission or even slightly better than a gas-driven one. And from 33 on, this will increase up to 100% up to 2050. You now have two fulfillment options. You once can add the product to the respective heating system. So each new system will get a 33% share. Or the other option is to do it via a mass balance system, like the electricity industry, the gas industry. You calculate the amount of renewable product needed and to introduce it somewhere in the market. Both fulfillment options are under discussion. Next slide, please. So this is the first graph, the idea of our calculation. On the top line with the blue triangles, you see the total amount of boilers. From today on, we have around 20 million in Europe. We assume that this will decrease in 2050 to around 10 million. The purple line underneath is the number of oil heating appliances sold each year. On the left hand, it is real data from the past, and from 2020 on, we expect to be stable. And then you can see some kind of hockey stick curve, an increase up to 31 to 370 million appliances a year. And you may now ask why. And we have some reasons for this increase. First reason is heating systems, oil heating systems becoming older and older, and more have to be replaced. So we have more and more decisions in the near future. We have a high amount of systems in rural areas where no gas grids are available. So they don't have the chance to switch over to gas. They have to have another solution. And as you know, maybe heat pumps are not suitable for old and not or less insulated buildings. So these people also may decide for oil. Third idea is that always the change in energy is more costly than to stick to the old energy. So if you have an oil system and no money or less money, then it is the cheapest solution to stick to oil. And I think the last point is, in future, customers will be forced to introduce renewables somehow. This could mean solar thermal, but this is costly. And if you decide for a renewable fuel, this is already done because you are on track with your system. On the bottom, the line with the blue dots, it is the sum curve of the number of boilers installed. And as already mentioned, in 2050, you only have boilers installed from 24 on, and it is the whole market is a market with high efficient boilers. Next slide, please. This is the share of renewables. As already mentioned, we start the new product, the select product, with 33%, and from 37 on, it will be increased to about 100% to ensure zero emission in 2050. Next slide, please. This is the sales of heating oil. And if you look today, we are selling in Europe around 35 million tons, and that will be reduced drastically to around 10 million tons. And the renewable component will increase smoothly to the 10 million tons in 2050. And the gray line is the share of the renewable component. You can say it will increase step by step up to 2050. Next slide, please. So this is the CO2 emission calculated, and as expected, in 2050 it's zero. So a drastic decrease in the coming years. And with this line, we are on track, and we should be accepted by politicians and officials. Next slide, please. So this is my summary. Our model is called 10-10-0. 10 million heating systems in 2050, 10 million tons of domestic heating oil sold in 2050, and zero CO2 emissions. So this is the idea for the future. And you may have in mind, this future is 30 years ago. It's a long time. Several things may happen, but if you don't have an idea, I think you can't make a proper comment on your product. Next slide, please. This is my last slide. This was Eurofuel's vision and roadmap 10-10-0. You can ask me right now, but you will have my contact details on this slide. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to contact me in the future. Thank you for listening.